going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets, powered by Game Plus Network, FTN Network, FTN Bets, FTN. Welcome in a fun Wednesday here on a Game Plus Network. If you're watching live on our FTN Network YouTube page, smash the like button. Tell a friend about the show, subscribe, rate, review, leave a comment. Any questions you guys have, you can always leave them here. We're going to touch on all the sports here today. All of them. That's right. All of them. We're going to touch, of course, on the Super Bowl. We got our very own Alex Blickle, co-host of Pro versus Pro. We're going to talk about the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am happening tomorrow. We're going to get some picks, some DFS stuff, a little friendly golf talk. Also, of course, get Alex's thoughts on the Super Bowl between the Eagles and the Chiefs. By now, you know, Eagles and the Chiefs, Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. We're also going to take an early look at the MLB Win Totals. They were released yesterday, late last night over at DraftKings. We started the MLB talk, I think, a couple weeks ago from a fantasy perspective, taking a look at high stakes, top 24 pitchers on average, top 12 pitchers on average in high stakes leagues. We'll dive deeper into that and get some MLB team previews coming up, very, very soon. We're going to see some FTN faces, friends of the show. We're going to dive into a lot of baseball talk here over the next little bit, but a quick little peek at the win totals in the American League and the National League. And there's only a couple games on the ice before the All-Star break happening in Florida this week. So just the two games tonight. I thought yesterday went pretty well, honestly. George must not have took any bets yesterday. He must not have bet at all yesterday. We did not get the Claude Giroux assist. We did get the shots from Claude Giroux. We got the shots from Brady Kachuk, Tim Stützle, Sebastian Aho. We got a point from Teuvo Teravainen. We did not get a point from TJ Oshie. Nowhere to be found. I'm a sucker for that play. I'm a sucker. I've been down the road a couple times over the past couple weeks for TJ Oshie. I get pulled in. I get pulled in with the matchup. I get pulled in with the old TJ Oshie playing on the top power play, playing with Alex Ovechkin. Didn't work out for me yesterday with either of those guys. But overall, it was a pretty decent day. And again, I'll give some love to the same game parlays, Bet365. I know a lot of people are having some success, and I know that a lot of people can't play them, but if you can, and you have a Bet365 account, my goodness, like the NHL same game parlays, it's the only book where you can parlay some of these props. Like last night, Kachuk and Stützle on the same line, parlay them together. It's plus 100. You go to Brinkat, Claude Giroux, second line, plus 150. Teuvo Teravainen, Sebastian Aho, first line, parlay them together for a point, plus 150. So a lot of success. And I noticed today with the Leafs and Bruins on tap that usually when those players, from those teams are playing tonight or when they play, it's usually like 1.5 points. We kind of stay away from that. But there's a lot of guys with 1 point, Tavares 1 point, William Nylander 1 point, maybe a Bergeron and Marchand. Same game parlay tonight, 1 point. The Hurricanes are back in action as well against the Sabres. Same game parlay and play for that top line like we always do with Tuck, Tage, Thompson, Alex Tuck, that is, and Jeff Skinner. Hockey talk towards the end of the show. A lot of news here in the NFL that's come down here. The Bears talking about how they're committed to Justin Fields. They're looking to trade out of that number one pick. No real surprise, trade out of that number one pick if they can, get some more picks, pieces, assets, build around Justin Fields and company. Yesterday, DeMeco Ryans, head coach now of the Houston Texans. I believe he holds the record for the most tackles in the franchise as well. He's back in Houston. I think the biggest thing for me is this is a 6-year deal. We've seen 4 coaches in Houston over the last 4 years. So he's locked in. Not like he can't get fired after year 1 or 2, but he's been with San Fran for, I think, 6 years, defensive coordinator for the last 2 years in San Fran. So brings some stability, a new culture to Houston. Stick with a head coach there. Texans, I think he got a good one. Certainly has a lot of work to do to take shape with that defense. But, he's as the second overall pick. He can also get himself a quarterback for the future. And then Sean Payton, right? I mean, the Broncos are completely all in. Kevin James was trending on Twitter yesterday, just like the whole Kevin James face, from the Payton movie. And I don't know, it was kind of annoying actually to see. But man, the Broncos really all in. All the assets they gave up for Russell Wilson last year, and then a first and a second. They gave the first this year. So the Saints are back into the draft in the first round. Of course, they gave up their first round pick to the Eagles last year for Chris Olave. And then also, they got Chris Olave. They ended up drafting him. But they did part with a first round pick to Philly. And Denver gets a third round pick on the other side of that. So I don't know. Do you guys believe in Peyton and company? Can they turn around Russell Wilson? I mean, the defense was fantastic, right? But they allowed the fewest They scored the fewest points in football last year. Not a fantastic year for Russ and company. Daily handle in the house. Let's go PTP. Oh, baby, Pebble Beach. Where is your Bradley Cooper Eagles jacket? This guy. Yeah, I'm a fan. I was a fan of that jacket for sure. All that news in the NFL, but none bigger than Tom Brady announcing his retirement. He took to social media. We got it here in case you missed it. Quan, cue us up. Mr. Tom Brady on his Instagram this morning.
Good morning, guys. I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good. I know the process was a pretty big deal last time, so when I woke up this morning, I figured I'd just press record and let you guys know first. So I won't be long-winded. You only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I used mine up last year. So really thank you guys so much, to every single one of you, for supporting me, my family, my friends, my teammates, my competitors. I could go on forever. There's too many. Thank you guys for allowing me to live my absolute dream. I wouldn't change a thing. Love you all.
An emotional Tom Brady there. I know a lot of people are wondering if he's going to be back. And, under that post on Twitter or Instagram, I saw like, yeah, sure, we'll see you again soon. It does seem like he's done. He choked up definitely in that video. And I wonder if he was done last year and that reports leaked that he was going to retire. And he did talk about that message that he had last year. And I wonder if he's like, no, screw it. You guys can't announce my retirement. I'm coming back for one more go. Honestly, he could have played again. I really do believe that he could have played again, but Brady doesn't know us anything. He doesn't know the league anything. A fantastic season, just some of his accomplishments that, we put together here as a board for, our guy George and Quan putting things together here. But, you see the seasons, the 7th Super Bowl champion. I mean, more Super Bowls than every franchise in the NFL, 5-time Super Bowl MVP, 3-time MVP, 15-time Pro Bowler. Field Yates tweeted some stuff from ESPN. A lot of what you see, like the 3 NFL MVPs and the 15 Pro Bowls, the 6 All-Pros, most career wins, most career passing yards, most career passing touchdowns, made the playoffs in 20 of 21 seasons as a starter. And he mentions how he feels like he's the most clutch player ever. And I do agree with Field Yates here. And some of my my pals may not, my Buffalo Bills pals, because they've just, took a beating from Tom Brady and company over the years. They want nothing to do with him. But Tom Brady in his 20s, 21,000 passing yards, 147 passing touchdowns, 3 Super Bowl wins. Tom Brady in his 30s, 40,000 passing yards, 309 passing touchdowns, 2 Super Bowl wins. Tom Brady in his 40s, 27,000 passing yards, 193 passing touchdowns, and 2 Super Bowl wins. A Hall of Fame resume in each decade, I think you can make the case for, as Field Yates tweeted out this morning. Tom Brady, the GOAT, he's done. It's over. And like it's just a new era, right? With new young quarterbacks, and it starts here. It doesn't really start next weekend with Jalen Hurts. I'm going to put Jalen Hurts into that. He's not quite there yet, but, Burrow and Mahomes and Allen and Herbert, and it's a new, you got Hurts coming up. You got Trevor Lawrence. It's new blood here in the NFL, because over the past couple of years, Brady and Big Ben and Drew Brees and, Philip Rivers had some moments. Eli Manning had some moments, like that whole kind of core, all gone. But yeah, I got a lot of Tom Brady moments. There's a ton. I was never a hater. I always just respected what he did, man. Like on the field, off the field, playing into his mid-40s, keeping his body in shape. He had some decent weapons over the course of his career, but he also had some pretty mediocre weapons over the course of his career, and he was still able to find a way to get it done. But I think the biggest thing for me when I think about Brady is not that he was drafted by the Montreal Expos and there's no active professional athletes anymore playing sports drafted by the Expos. I think about his the line of scrimmage, like Manning. When you think about Manning, you think about the change of play calling and audibles and all that stuff. But I just think of like the pre-snap motion and the pre-snap, ability to read the play pre-snap and even post. He just always seemed to make the right plays all the time. And we touched last week with Manning. Well, we said with Burrow and Mahomes, it would be a debate for years. And everybody was already starting to talk about the debate that Burrow was better than Mahomes. But, I always thought that Manning was a little bit more talented than Brady. I feel pretty confident saying that. But Brady's the guy that won the big games. And he's the guy that won on the biggest stage, most when it mattered, and a hell of a career from the GOAT, Tom Brady. We're going to break. We're bringing another GOAT, Alex Blickle. I want to get his thoughts, of course, in the Super Bowl. We have the Pebble Beach Pro-Am happening this weekend as well. We'll talk some golf. We'll talk some football, get his thoughts on maybe Tom Brady and maybe on the Phillies, because we do have a sneak peek of some NL and AL win totals. And the Phillies did make some noise in the offseason as well, as a lot of teams did. We'll touch on all of that here on Mean Streets. We'll be back in a couple. Hang tight.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at ftnbets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN data.
Welcome back in as we bring in Alex Blickle. Alex Blickle 1 on the Twitter machine of FTN Bets, FTN Daily, FTN Fantasy. You can catch Pro versus Pro right here on our FTN Network YouTube page. Video last night's episode already in the books. Pebble Beach, Pro-Am. We'll get to it in just a little bit, Alex, but I got to ask you your thoughts on Tom. You know, last night I was typing up some odds because we just have some fun. We talk a lot of odds, and DraftKings had a special last week with Tom Brady, and he was favored to go to the Raiders, and then knocked out Purdy last week, and he's sidelined for the next 6 months. So everything just became Brady San Fran, and now we get to speculate about Rodgers for the next couple of months. But as of last night, he was favored, according to DraftKings and the DK special, to sign with San Fran, and now he just straight up retires this morning. Initial thoughts? You think he's officially gone? Daily Handle with Jordan says he wouldn't be surprised if he returned next season. I think he's officially done, but what comes to your mind when you think of Tom Brady and you think about the announcement this morning?
I think he's done too. He basically said that he wasn't going to make the same mistake that he made last year. He wasn't going to announce anything until he was completely sure. I think he realizes, like, you can't say twice and then immediately come back. So maybe 2 years from now, if he does come back, he'd take like a gap year. But yeah, I tend to think he's done. Incredible career. I think I kind of held on to Peyton Manning as the GOAT for as long as I could, but Brady, I think you have to at this point say he had the best career, even if you think like the position has never been played better than Peyton Manning did it in his prime, right. Which I still think is probably the case. But yeah, just unbelievable career, and very, very happy that one of the Super Bowl losses for him was at the hands of our Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, it was. I mean, 2004 was devastating. I never thought I'd ever get over it. And then, when they played again in 2017, I was like, man, they better get them this time. And it's amazing in that game, the Eagles didn't even punt. Like, they scored And they barely won that game. It was a fantastic showing from both quarterbacks, Nick Foles and Tom Brady. What do you make of the Bucs now? Like, I know people are out there talking about the quarterbacks in the division. There's a lot of question marks across the board. Like Carolina, Frank Reich is there now. Who's going to be the quarterback in Carolina? Who's going to be the quarterback with the New Orleans Saints? Is Trask going to be the quarterback in Tampa? Like, it is, it's pretty weak. But what do you make of the Bucs? Is it full on just let's start shipping some of these pieces away? Like, is Godwin traded? Is Evans traded? Like, what do you make of this franchise now moving forward without Brady?
I have no idea what to make of it. I think the biggest question is what do they do with the quarterback position, obviously. And I think before they have that answer, they can't answer anything else. Like whether you want to rebuild or not, that's dependent on what quarterback you can get. So for example, like if they get Rodgers, okay, now they're continuing to try to win. If they're just going to try to look for a quarterback in the draft, then maybe it's a great time to try and rebuild, that sort of thing. So I think so many unanswered questions for them as a whole, but it has to start with who the quarterback is, and who the quarterback is has a ton of fantasy implications too. Like with all of those weapons there, Evans, Godwin, we want them to have a very good quarterback so we can continue to view those guys as really great fantasy assets. But yeah, it's a lot of unanswered questions. Very, very interesting to see how it'll all play out.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like they may trade some of their pieces away. I mean, they still have a really good roster despite a pretty mediocre season from them, right?
Yeah.
It seemed like in and out with some of the injuries, certainly to the offensive line was not great. I did think Brady was going to come back for another year. I thought he still had a little bit more to offer, whether it was Vegas or San Fran. I mean, put him on the Niners. I mean, they're right back probably in the same situation they were this year. With Brady and, an offensive line that can protect him in a run game. But that's it. He's done. And we're going to turn the page on that. And speaking of Rodgers, we're going to see him this weekend, right? He's going to be doing a little golf. He's going to play a little golf.
So, yeah.
Weekend. Yeah, he's in Cali. I think I saw him last night on the Pat McAfee show talking, listen, I'll let you guys know in a couple weeks after the Super Bowl. It's the whole Rodgers thing. We got to go down this road yet again. But the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am gets underway tomorrow. We have the top of the board here, Alex, like we normally do. I know you do a great job of seeking value and finding some value, and we'll get into that just in a little bit. But Matt Fitzpatrick is the favorite here at 11-1. We got the Hove at 12-1. Spieth, 2017 winner, runner-up last year. We got McNeely at 18-1. Power 19-1. Hoagie, who did win last year, at 22-1. And then Justin Rose down the board here at 35-1. A few guys here at 35-1. I saw Matt Kuchar at the Waste Management Open, man. He was a boss. He was yelling at the crowd through all the holes, fist pumping everybody. I just kind of fell in love with Kuchar at that tourney. What do you make here of this list and these guys? Any interest at all from a betting standpoint or maybe a DFS standpoint? One of these guys that you feel like you're going to have some exposure to this weekend?
Yeah, the two that stand out to me are Spieth at 12 and Hoagie at 22. And I'll start with Hoagie, just how far he's come. I mean, when he won last year, I was fortunate enough to have that outright ticket. I think it was a 55-1. It might have even been 60-1. Now he's 22. And honestly, I don't think it's an overreaction to the fact that he won last year. I think he's just become that good of a player. The course fit model is a really, really strong one, really reliable one this week. And it really speaks to both Hoagie and Spieth's games, particularly the fact that they are so good with their wedges. It makes it pretty straightforward in terms of just matching up skill sets with what the course fit model is saying about this week. And I don't like to go to the 12-1 range basically ever in PGA, but I know of a lot of people who have access to sports books who give an extra 300 boost. So if there's a 12-1, you can make it 15-1. If there's 22, you can make it 25, that sort of thing. So if I had access to that, I would like Spieth at 15 for sure.
What do you think are the key statistics here? I feel like bombers is not necessarily an asset here. Am I wrong in thinking that? Obviously short green, short stuff all the time, but strokes gained approach seems like a statistic when you're trying to find some DFS plays and some guys to bet on. You're going to want some pin seekers this weekend, right?
So Justin and I talked a lot about this last night. My favorite type of PGA week is when the entire industry basically says one thing about the course fit and our data says something else. And everyone is saying exactly what you just said. That distance doesn't really matter here. It's a shorter course. We've seen historically that shorter guys can win and play well here. And I think that that's a product of the fact that, hey, unfortunately, because it's, I guess, just because it's the Pro-Am and the time of year that this tournament is, we typically see pretty weak fields here, which means we see a lot more players than usual who don't have a lot of distance off the tee. So it's very natural that you're going to end up seeing some of those guys contend and even win. But the data is very clear that distance is extremely predictive at Pebble Beach and really all three of these golf courses. So I'm really leaning into that this week. There, as I said, like there aren't a ton of guys who are super long in this field, but those who are going to have a real advantage. And as you said, like approach play is extremely predictive here. Putting is very predictive. Around the green play a little less than usual, and driving accuracy a little less than usual. So if you line up those three skill sets, distance off the tee, strong iron play, particularly from the wedge game, and good putters, I think you're in for a really successful week.
A little sneak peek of why Pro versus Pro is the show to watch instead of just me just rambling about statistics. I like it. I want honesty on this show and appreciate that one. Okay, Alex, let's dig a little bit deeper now because, as I mentioned, I mean, you're hitting these long shots all the time, and you guys are not. You're talking top of the board, just like I showed you that graphic, but you're also digging a little bit deeper, and you've already had some success this season calling some of these outright winners. So give me a couple players that you're looking at here with some longer odds.
Yeah, I had the 50-1 Siwoo hit and Keegan 66 last week was really, really close. Fortunately, I had the each way on him, and I'm kind of living in that exact range again this week. I have a whole slew of bets in our tracker, so shout out to the tracker. Go check that out.
Yes.
I mentioned on the show last night too. It's like the bets that I made, it could have gone so many different directions. I don't like to make too many bets. I did add two more this morning, Ben Griffin and Scott Stallings at 55-1 each. One of them was a Bet Rivers each way, but my card this week, like it could have gone a number of places. There's just that entire like 50 to 80 range, I think, is stacked with guys that I really like. I mentioned Ben Griffin, Scott Stallings. There's also Trey Mullinax. There's Davis Riley, Callum Tarrant, Lonto Griffin. Like that whole range was really speaking to me, and particularly the fact that like a lot of those guys have distance off the tee. They're solid with their irons. They can make putts, and I also lean into the volatility when looking at outright bets. Like I want the guy who might crash and burn. Think Kurt Kitayama last week. He was like a pretty clear miscut after 9 holes or something like that. But when he's got it going, he can contend. He can win. So Kitayama and Joseph Brownman are two other names that were kind of in that mix of, am I going to bet them? Am I not? But yeah, all my current bets are in the tracker. I don't think I'll make any more, but like there's some that I'm still intrigued by a few more.
Talk to me about Mullinax. I don't know too much about his game, and I see odds all over the place from 60 to 66. I see FanDuel is offering like a no sweat first bet up to $3K at 70-1 for him this weekend.
So he's super long off the tee. I believe he is he's number 2 in strokes gained through driving distance, only behind Brandon Matthews, who 500-1 shot, a guy that I know pretty well, played a bunch with him. He's from my area. I was close to pulling that 500-1 trigger. Ended up not doing it, but Mullinax, super long off the tee, very good with his irons. His two weaknesses are around the green play and driving accuracy, both of which are diminished in predictive value this week. So that really helps him. The number one concern that I have for him, and the reason why, in DFS, I might not end up using him, is he gains more strokes with his approach play with mid irons and especially long irons. Gains 0.03 per shot with long irons. It's really, really good. And he's pretty much just neutral with the wedges. So that's the one concern I have for him. But the 66-1 number that I got on him is still too high. I think, that keeps him from being like a 30-40-1 type of guy in my mind. And I think with the lack of the wedge game prowess, if you will, it makes him more like 50-55 as the best number for him. So 66, still a lot of value, especially if you can get the each way on him like I did.
FTNbets.com, as you mentioned, all the tweets from FTN Alerts as well. It's a good account to follow. I know we've had some technical difficulties with that, but it sounds like we do have that rolling here, certainly with the golf picks. We have the free trials too, guys. If you're just unfamiliar, I know some people are reaching out to me lately. Alex, they want to get into some betting, even though the football season is over. Thank you for that, Quan. FTNbets.com/free. You can sign up for the 3-day trial for free. Obviously, and you can get a little bit of a sneak peek of what we have to offer over at ftnbets.com. All picks across all sports. Alex, all of his golf picks. We got NHL. We have, you see the studs on the board. I mean, LeBron, he's only like 89 points away, by the way, from passing Kareem for the most points. He's really, really close to getting that done. His next 2 games on the road, I think he'll get it done at Staples Center. I can't imagine. Well, I guess it's not called Staples Center anymore. I forget the silly name. I can't imagine what the tickets would be for that game. I know he's got the Bucks coming up and the Warriors coming up as well before the Thunder. But all picks across all sports, projections, tools, Discord channel. We have channels for all the sports, and we cover them all over at FTN Bets. And Alex does some great stuff on the DFS side as well. ftndaily.com/free. You can check out all Alex work, hot takes, the course fit, statistics galore, optimizer, PGA, NBA, NFL, projections, tools, Discord. It is all there for you on both of those websites. No excuse not to sign up for free. ftnbets.com, ftndaily.com. Links inside the description of this video. If you're watching on our FTN Network YouTube page, you can hop on over watching on Game Plus. Alex, stick around if you don't mind. Want to get your thoughts on the Super Bowl. Maybe a little sentence or two about the Phillies, too. We're diving into win totals here, and your Phillies made some noise last year, but it is all about the birds before we get to the Phillies, and we'll touch on them after the break. Hang tight. Back in a couple.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win. Prize Picks is a creative new way to parlay picks based on expected fantasy point production and single stat projections. You pick 2 to 5 players and predict if they'll go over or under their projected fantasy point total or their single stat total. When parlaying the players, the larger your parlay, the better the payout. A 2-pick entry pays 3x. A 3-pick entry pays 5x. A 4-pick entry pays 10x. As a bonus offer, there's a flex play option. This provides an added level of security on your entry where you can decrease your multiplier received if you miss one of your entries but hit on all the others. At FTN, we have Prize Picks coverage for every sport in both article and standalone pick format on our Prize Picks pick tracker. Use promo code FTN for a 100% deposit match on your first deposit of up to $100.
Talking with Alex Blickle here. Mean Streets continuing on Game Plus Network. I forgot to ask you, I don't even know if you know this, but who's like the best non-professional golfer like playing this weekend? Like I know I just saw in the comments Josh Allen. I think Daily Handle was being cute there about his cousin. He says his cousin Josh Allen or something like that. I was looking. I know Ray Romano plays all the time here. My cousin Josh Allen's playing Pebble Beach Preview. That's not actually your cousin, is it? Are you actually related to Josh Allen? Wouldn't mind knowing that. Do you know like who? I know Larry Fitzgerald is playing. I've seen Larry play good. And I've seen Romo play good, but I know like I don't feel like those guys are playing there this weekend. And obviously, you know, we've seen Curry and we've seen Brady and Rodgers and all these like little fun events. But is there a non-professional golfer that is actually pretty darn good?
I would have to guess it's one of the athletes, but I will say I was fortunate enough to play in a Korn Ferry Tour event a few years ago, and there was one like celebrity type guy in the field. It was Jake Owen, the country singer.
Okay.
First of all, he was a blast. I was warming up on the range right next to him. Really, really funny, super nice guy, but he could swing. You know, he's got a pretty good swing. It wasn't like immediately noticeable just walking like along the range that, hey, that guy's not a professional. So Jake Owen, I think, might get my vote, but I don't actually know like what kind of scores he shot. He might just have a much better swing than he is able to get around the golf course and put the ball in the hole.
Yes. You're a goat, by the way. Are you kidding me? Playing with these guys. I'm seeing Josh Allen, Rogers, Ron Rivera, Steve Young. So, I mean, there's going to be some names there. Garrett Bale. Wow. Former Tottenham Spur
I'm
there.
pretty sure
Buster
Bale
Posey.
is a very good golfer. You know,
Yeah.
I'm actually wearing a Tottenham Hotspur shirt right now, and Bale used to be one of my favorites. I'm pretty sure he's quite a good golfer.
Yeah, he used to be one of my favorites too. And I remember just like not totally understanding how transfers worked and stuff. Like I grew up as a Spurs fan because of my grandfather, but like he just like gonna lose Bale. Like he was always saying it for years. I'm like, nah, why would he lose him? He's the best. Like they're not gonna lose him. And then lost him, of course. Yeah. Man, a lot of reasons to like you. You're wearing a Spurs shirt, you're cheering for the Eagles. Let's get into that matchup. Get your thoughts. So 2.5 favorites here. Line hasn't budged. Philly favored, total at 49.5. What do you make, man? What do you make of the matchup? What'd you make of first before we get into the matchup? Like I see some Eagles fans or, there's people kind of obviously taking, shots at the Eagles and some of the quarterbacks they played and some of the teams they played and maybe the offense not looking great, last week, but not really tested over the past couple weeks. Do you feel like the Eagles game plan will be to stick to the run? I know it's kind of seems like cliche at this point to even talk about, like, that's how you keep Mahomes off the field, like run the football. But man, Alex, this is what the Eagles have done really good over the past couple of years is run the football. What do you think the game plan for Philly will be in this matchup?
I think it's going to be to run the football. And I don't think it's necessarily just like because they're better at running the ball than passing or anything like that. First of all, like the Chiefs have seen one of the lowest pass rates over expectation all season. Teams they run the ball against the Chiefs. I believe the Chiefs were 17th in EPA per rush allowed this season. By far, like the worst run defense that the Eagles have played. Actually, the Giants were worse, but in comparison to the Niners, like if you can run that successfully against the Niners, you can run against the Chiefs. I think we'll see a lot of that, and part of it too is like, this Eagles run game is historically good. And I think that's the part that a lot of people miss. It's the fact that this offensive line is so dominant, whether it's the receivers or the tight ends who are also on the field, they're really good at run blocking as well. And then there's a huge variable that Jalen Hurts has the threat of keeping the ball. Like on the first Miles Sanders touchdown, one of the coolest kind of film breakdowns that I've seen on a rushing touchdown. And you see Fred Warner is like curling around the wrong way as Sanders is like going through the hole already. He's 3 steps from a touchdown and Fred Warner is still lurking the wrong direction towards Hurts. He's just such a threat. So I think this is a weird matchup for the Eagles in the sense that I was super confident that whether it was the Niners or the Cowboys, the Eagles would make it to the Super Bowl because both of those teams, the key to stopping them offensively is a pass rush. The Eagles have a phenomenal pass rush. And the key to their defenses was also a pass rush, and we have the best offensive line. So this is a bit of a stranger matchup because you can't say the same thing about Mahomes. Certainly, like you can pressure him all you want, and he's going to find a way out of it and make plays downfield. He's phenomenal when pressured. So I'm a little bit more nervous on the defensive side of things, but I do think the Eagles are going to be able to run the ball a ton. And the only hope that Kansas City has to stop the run is to commit so much attention to the run game that it's going to leave a lot of one-on-one on the outside for Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. And I think the Eagles can win those matchups too.
Yeah, I clearly a lot has been made about the pass rush, right? And I think people are now giving them some credit. It's easy to say, they got 4 guys in double-digit sacks and Hassan Reddick, and he's just a couple away from passing White too. I mean, the franchise record, like 19 and a half. Like he's just been phenomenal. And now people are actually starting to see it on the big stage. But it's true that this will be, and clearly it's Mahomes, and he's obviously atop the world, but they really haven't faced anyone even close. I don't feel like Dak once, Kyler earlier in the year, but they haven't faced a quarterback like this. And you kind of touched on maybe the defense, but that's what I was going to ask you. Like, how do the Eagles run their offense? And then the same thing, how do you feel like Gannon prepares for this matchup? Because it's not like, I know you and I have chatted about him before, and we've some highs and some lows with Gannon, and
Yeah.
and you know, I think Philly fans are used to seeing, you know, a lot of blitz packages and things like that, but they're doing a good job of getting some pressure regardless. That's the thing. Like, how do you stop Mahomes? Like, are they just going to try to bracket and double Kelsey? And if you want to beat them with MVS, like, go ahead. Like, that's you know, the kind of the game plan here.
Yeah, I have no idea. I will say, like, for as much as I've talked down about Gannon, he had a phenomenal game plan against San Francisco.
Absolutely.
Just completely took away the bootlegs, stopped to the run, and then just let the pass rush tee off. But like you saw the play where Reddick almost stole the ball from Josh Johnson on the sack. Like, he just completely took away the bootleg, and that's so much of the Shanahan offense. And Shanahan, I think, like, it's almost unfortunate that Purdy got hurt and then Josh Johnson got hurt, because I think the result would have been very similar even if he was healthy throughout the entire game. I think the game plan was phenomenal. The way the Eagles defense matched up with San Francisco's offense was phenomenal. But yeah, I don't know where Gannon goes to stop Mahomes. I don't know that anybody in the history of the league has found a way to stop Mahomes. I do think the key, like, if there has been a blueprint that's been shown for how to stop Mahomes, it was in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay. You have to get pressure. You have to be able to get pressure without blitzing. The Eagles can do that, but the like then looming question is, just because you get pressure, can you actually get him on the ground? Can you force him to make mistakes? Or do you just see heroic Mahomes play after heroic Mahomes play, which can't surprise any of us at this point?
No, and he's going to have a couple weeks as well, right? You know, for the ankle, and reports that it's a 3 to 6 week thing. And he didn't really move around too much last week, but when the game was on the line, what did he do? He moved around, right? There was a throw where he went to his left and he took the throw on his right foot. And then obviously he scrambled for the 5 yards, and there's a penalty, and the rest is history. Alex, before you get out of here, we do have some stats just to kind of show people of how these two teams match up. Quan, if you have them, chuck them up. I mean, a lot of it from Football Outsiders. See offensively, just everything on the right. I mean, just checking all the boxes with Kansas City, right? I mean, number one in yards per game, passing yards per game, EPA, you know, per drop back, and points per game, total DVOA offense. It's amazing they didn't miss a beat without Tyreek Hill, and this wide receiver room just seemed like it was very underwhelming all year long. And the other side with the Philly, the Eagles pretty much match up with them in a lot of these categories. Of course, the difference between the two teams the rushing ability from Philadelphia, you know, 147.6 rushing yards per game, the best rushing team in football over the last 2 years. But I think the difference between these two teams, we can agree, and I think a lot of viewers and listeners can agree too, as you flip over, Quan, to the defensive metrics, right? I mean, kind of just middle of the pack here for Kansas City. They allowed the most passing touchdowns, 33 this season. And for Philly, 5.5 yards per pass attempt, 63% completion percentage against two opposing quarterbacks, number one against the pass. And this is a third matchup of ever in the Super Bowl where we have a number one offense up against a number one pass defense. And a lot has been made about Andy Reid, right? Of course, that's one of the storylines. Alex, Andy Reid, what do you envision from Reid? Losing the big game, maybe some clock management stuff here, tongue in cheek, of course.
That would be the poetic end, right? If the Chiefs outplay them the whole game, and then Andy Reid makes a clock management error that gives the Eagles the chance, and they take that chance and end up winning, that would be poetic. But I don't know. I like I said, I was so confident about the last round. I don't feel quite as not confident as I did like when the Phillies were playing the Astros. It's somewhere in the middle this time. And
yeah,
I just can't wait for the game. And I know it'll be an anxious mess for the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to sleep. Not getting any sleep these days. Okay, we'll get you out of here on this in two things. We get Super Bowl MVP odds. We're going to get a prediction from you and maybe who you think will win the Super Bowl. Quan, you got some odds for us as well. A couple of them have changed. I mean, Hurts was a little bit more of a favorite, and then Hassan Reddick, who we touched on Monday, was 50-1. Now seeing 40-1. Of course, Prop Shop's your friend to get the best possible odds. It's usually quarterbacks, but we have seen some defensive players. I mean, even Cooper Kupp last year won the MVP as well. So give us a prediction and an MVP, Mr. Blickle.
You know I'm going with the Eagles for the prediction.
It's fine.
100%. I'm going with the Eagles for the prediction. As far as the MVP goes, so the first name that comes to my mind is AJ Brown, with the thought being, you know, he gets a week off to rest and get a little bit healthier. It's pretty clear that we don't know exactly what's been ailing him, but something has been slowing him down. I think we'll see a much healthier AJ Brown with more burst. As I say, like if Kansas City really commits to taking away the run, that's going to mean more one-on-one opportunities on the outside for AJ Brown. So he could have a massive game. The two sleepers that I'll throw out there, though, and they're not even on this board. I don't know if you can bet them anywhere right now. Darius Slay, James Bradbury. If the Eagles stop Mahomes, I think one of the most kind of likely outcomes or the most likely ways that they do that is with turnovers. They get pressure. Mahomes escapes the sack, tries to make a play downfield, and someone makes a play in the secondary. Slay is the guy who I think is most likely to do that if he's targeted a bunch, but I also think that from Kansas City's perspective, they should try to target James Bradbury more often. So the more they target Bradbury, now he's going to have some opportunities to make plays. If he can step up and make them when they try and pick on him, then all of a sudden you've got a guy maybe has, a few pass breakups and 2 key interceptions, and maybe that's enough to win the MVP.
I like the call. I like it a lot. He's around 50-1. I almost put him on the board 50-1, I believe. Again, use our prop shop. That paper defense. I heard him talk on his podcast about how he was pretty ticked off with the George Kittle got them triggered talking about the paper defense. Good unit. Good. It's not hard to trigger anybody these days. Everyone always is ticked off with anything that you say. But George Kittle did say that they had a good defense on paper. And that I didn't think that I didn't really clue into it at the time. I could see now maybe listening to the clip why that would get the boys fired up. But anyways, the littlest thing gets everybody fired up these days. Yeah. Alex, appreciate your time. Good luck. Enjoy the golf. And good luck to the birds. And we will talk to you again soon, my friend. No time for the Phillies, but we'll get into it. Still got a couple months to get into baseball prep. Still a lot of football talk here on Mean Streets. We'll be back in a couple. We'll say goodbye to Blickle. Keep her locked.
Thanks, Chris.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win. Prize Picks is a creative new way to parlay picks based on expected fantasy point production and single stat projections. You pick 2 to 5 players and predict if they'll go over or under their projected fantasy point total or their single stat total. When parlaying the players, the larger your parlay, the better the payout. A 2-pick entry pays 3x. A 3-pick entry pays 5x. A 4-pick entry pays 10x. As a bonus offer, there's a flex play option. This provides an added level of security on your entry where you can decrease your multiplier received if you miss one of your entries, but hit on all the others. At FTN, we have Prize Picks coverage for every sport in both article and standalone pick format on our Prize Picks pick tracker. Use promo code FTN for a 100% deposit match on your first deposit of up to $100.
A little bit of baseball talk over these next couple of blocks. We'll say goodbye to the football talk for now. I did have a board with the opposing quarterbacks that the Eagles face. I know some people want to see that, so maybe we can bring that up another time. But let's start here. Oh, there it is. Look at that. So we may visit this again when we have some other guests on, but I hear the noise. It can't be all Philly love on this show, right? I mean, it's been a great pass defense all year, right? Number one, we just showed some of the statistics, but Jared Goff week 1. Jared Goff had a fantastic season. It was week 1. Not a lot of adversity really that can go up and down this lineup. And I remember the adversity of the Eagles face and not a whole lot. That game was, tight when you look at the box score. Detroit got some run towards the end of the game to keep that a little bit closer, but the Eagles had 4 rushing touchdowns in that game. They had one from Hurts and Scott and Gainwell and Sanders. It was a good first game. A.J. Brown went off. Week 2, that was at home. Kirk Cousins really struggled. Kirk Cousins had a great season. Not so much under the bright lights on primetime, which I do believe this game was. And Darius Slay had a big game. He locked up Justin Jefferson in that contest. Week 3 was no matchup. against Carson Wentz, former quarterback in Washington. I think they sacked him 8 or 9 times in that game. AJ, Devontae, Jalen Hurts is one of his better games of the season. That week 4 game, Trevor Lawrence, that was at the Link. It was a little rainy, sloppy weather. Lawrence just come off a big game. It had a great breakout campaign from Trevor Lawrence. And the Jags, of course, they made the playoffs. They won a playoff game with Doug Peterson and company. But, Trevor Lawrence really struggled to move the ball. They got after him, created some turnovers. There was a little bit of adversity in this game, week 5 in Arizona against Kyler. Remember, Kyler had that silly he thought it was like 3rd and 1, and he spiked it, and it was 4th and 1. There was just some miscommunication. It was just a bloody mess in Arizona all year. But there was a chance for the Cardinals to come back in that game and I think tie the game up late, either with a field goal or a touchdown. It didn't happen. Week 6, of course, Cooper Rush. Everyone, at that moment, there was, silliness about Cooper Rush versus Dak. And is Cooper better for this offense? And the boys were rolling. The Eagles, reminded everyone that Cooper Rush is just not very good. Kenny Pickett, same deal, right? I think Kenny Pickett and the Steelers had just beat the Bucks, and it was exciting times for Pittsburgh, and the Eagles coming off the bye, reminded everybody that Kenny Pickett is a rookie, and the Steelers not that great. Davis Mills on Thursday night, not really much of a contest at all in that game. They ran the ball. Taylor Heineke, that was the first time really this Eagles team, faced some adversity. This was a loss. At the Link, some turnovers by Jalen Hurts and company. Washington ran the ball really well. They had long drives, extended drives, kept the offense off the field, and they ended up winning that football game. First loss, almost the second one in Indy. Jeff Saturday, Matt Ryan, some turnovers again. First game, I believe, without Dallas Goedert, and I thought that was a game where the Eagles offense really struggled to move the ball. I felt like they missed Dallas Goedert in that game, but Jalen Hurts and company found a way to win it towards the end of that game. I believe a Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown. I think it was like a 17-16 final. Week 12, Aaron Rodgers actually forced Aaron Rodgers out of that game. We saw some Jordan Love. That really wasn't a contest at all. Week 13, same sort of deal, not much of a contest. I think forced Ryan Tannehill out of the game a little bit as well, dealing with the foot or the calf injury at that moment. Daniel Jones and company, right? The Giants were feeling themselves. Everybody was talking about the Giants. And then the Eagles went into MetLife and smoked them, crushed them. Had over 240 rushing yards and a season-high 48 points, nearly 500 yards of offense, and just had their way with them. Justin Fields, this was a game where Jalen Hurts got hurt. Took the shoulder injury he was landed on and finished the game, but definitely saw some pain there, and they kept Justin Fields intact for the most part. He did have a nice rush touchdown, I think, in that game. Dak Prescott torched him. Really, Dak Prescott and Andy Dalton. This was, of course, without Jalen Hurts, and the offense struggled. The offense, I think, played actually okay against Dallas. Week 16 against the Cowboys. Gardner Minshew had some moments, but Gardner Minshew was not great against the Saints. Week 17, a good defense. Andy Dalton, Dak kind of picked apart the secondary quite a bit. Then week 18 was a layup, of course, with Davis Webb, and then Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy again. Not a lot of good quarterbacks really on that list. Like Kirk Cousins is better than average, I believe. Trevor Lawrence, just young, up and coming. Kyler, right, some issues. Kyler's a bit of a setback really over the past couple of years compared to just 2 years ago with, some MVP talk towards the early part of last season for sure. Nobody else really on this list, of course, Rodgers, but nobody else for Dak, I guess. But nobody else, not a lot of good quarterbacks on this list. So by far the best quarterback, the best offense that the Eagles will face this week. And I guess I went into it a lot deeper than I thought I was going to, Quan. So we'll break, and then we'll do NL and AL in one block here next on Mean Streets. Welcome back in. An early look at the AL and NL win totals. See if we can find some edges. Quan, let's start with the American League and NL, whatever you want to do here. There you go. We're all over here. We're going to get some guests, hopefully some beat writers that follow these teams a lot closer than I do, even though I'm not going to lie, I follow baseball pretty closely. See the Astros up at the top, 95.5, the Yankees, 94.5. Prop Shop's your friend. Most of these are from DraftKings. I took the best one. I mean, the lowest one I thought would be the best, right? Unless you're digging deep at the bottom for the Royals and the Tigers and the Athletics, and you wanted to go, under a number. But the Astros 95.5, the Yankees 94.5, the Bluebirds 90.5. I kind of have a lean to the over on the Jays. I think the Rays will, regress a little bit. They always they're sneaky. They always hang around and they find ways to win. But I really do like this Jays team. I like their rotation. I think it's better this year with the addition of Bassett, getting some lefty bats inside their lineup as well this year. I really like where the Jays are headed. 90.5, I'd lean to the over. I stay away from like the Astros and the Yankees, but I mean, nobody should be shocked here on the show if the Astros win 100 games. The Rays at 88.5. I got to lean to the over with the Mariners as well, 87.5. That I think last year was just the start. Them scratching the surface. What will be a nice run for them over the next couple of years with a lot of nice prospects, great bullpen still intact, an underrated pen as well with some nice young pitchers. Cleveland at 86.5, the White Sox at 83.5, under 77.5. You got there. For the Boston Red Sox daily handle. I would agree with that. I'm actually surprised that Boston has a higher win total than Baltimore. I think Baltimore's got a better roster. I really do. I think they got a better roster than the Red Sox. The Tigers at 69.5. I lean to the under with the Royals and the Athletics. I know it's a very low number with the Athletics. I think we had the under on this show last year with Oakland and we got that one. Texas, right? The leap forward for Texas, 82.5. It's, it's a great roster on paper. George Kittle, great roster on paper. Can DeGrom stay healthy? Can some of these pieces, John Gray, Andrew Haney, can these guys stay healthy in the rotation? Seager and Semien, they made some noise 2 years ago. They bring in DeGrom. Like, it is a really good roster. And then, of course, the Angels sitting there at 80.5. They're just a 500 squad if they're lucky. It's every year we do this with the Halos. Over to the National League. Up at the top, you got the Braves and the Dodgers, of course, at 95.5, but the Braves and the Mets are locked in at 94.5 each. Really still love this Braves roster, man. I love it. There's a lot of nice kids inside their roster, strong bullpen, strong staff as well. And the Mets, of course, have made a lot of noise over the past couple of years, signing guys left, right, and center, and it's a rotation led by Verlander and Max Scherzer, and I still believe that those two have a lot to offer. The Padres at 92.5, I always feel like they're slightly overrated in the betting market. I'd lean to the under in that. I know they have a really good roster, and they brought in Xander and company, but Tatis is going to miss a little bit of time. I'm not sold on their staff. I feel like their entire staff is very fragile. The Cardinals, 88.5, they always exceed expectations. Alex Phillies in there at 88.5. The Brewers at 85.5. The Cubbies are an interesting team. I could see them winning like in mid 80s, flirt with high 80s there for Chicago. The Giants 81.5, and then just a lot of bad teams here on the bottom. Miami at 74, Arizona at 74. The Pirates and the Reds at 67 and 65. I'd lean to the under of both of those teams. The Rockies for sure. I can't see them even winning 60 games. I think they'll be one of the worst teams in baseball this year. And the Nats are definitely going through a rebuilding process as well. Too high on the Dodgers, too high on the Padres. I think those numbers are just slightly too high. I would lean to the over with the Phillies. I would lean to the under with the Pirates, Reds, Rockies, and Nats, honestly. And I don't know about the Giants, 81.5. I could see it. It's like every other year with the Giants. I could see them having a decent season, but I'm not really sold daily handle on their roster. I don't love it. I'm not a huge fan of it. Okay, we'll break, and there's just 2 games on the ice tonight, so we have a couple props just to round out Mean Street, so we'll be back in just a couple. Hang tight.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at ftnbets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN data.
Only 2 games, only 2 props. I got a lot more over at ftnbets.com. We already told you how you can sign up for free. ftnbets.com/free. David Pastrnak over 4.5 shots plus money today. We don't always get a lot of plus money. Usually, thank you for this, Quan, plus 110 over at Bet Rivers, a matchup against the Maple Leafs. He was stuck on 4 shots in his last game, but it was a stingy matchup against the Hurricanes, 7, 6, and 7 before that. And just the Leafs a little bit depleted, right? Missing Austin Matthews, not the same sort of team. It should be a what was that word I was going to say? Fanaticating. It was like a fascinating, fantastic, fabulous all in one. So I think I tried to go with there, Quan. The over 4.5 bats, 4.5 for pasta. Let's eat some pasta, drink some bats tonight. I do like the Bruins to beat the Leafs. And then I like the Sabres to upset the Hurricanes tonight. I think that's like the dog here. Carolina played last night. They were down like 4 goals. They came back, tied it up, won in overtime. Now the second half of a back-to-back. Really think the Sabres team is underrated. They're playing really good hockey. Going with the over on Alex Tuck, 2.5 shots, minus 118. He is cleared in 23 of his past 28. And I know I just said that Carolina, a stingy team, but it's that second half of the back-to-back. The Sabres can really bring it offensively. So I'm taking the over on Tuck. Man, cleared 23 in his last 28 games. It's pretty spectacular. In a lot of the games that he didn't clear, he was stuck on 2. Alex Tuck season, David Pastrnak season. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Cheers.